the New Orleans Pelicans, the 13th
Woo!
seed. They finished 30-42, and a lot of excitement for this team this season. I think the main storyline
Yo,
for
y'all
them,
go. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick.
yeah, I think the main storyline for their team this season is, can Zion Williamson stay healthy? He's been injured so far. I mean, I don't the first he was injured all last year. He wasn't injured, but they were really being cautious with him in his rookie season. He looks like he's going to stay healthy this year. He looks built in training camp. He looks fit. He looks good to go. JJ Redick has talked about it on his podcast. And I think this is one of the biggest mysteries in the NBA right now. Though when you talk about this team, because yes, they still have JJ, Brandon Ingram, Jackson Hayes. They added Steven Adams. Eric Bledsoe's there. Alonzo's still there. So I think everybody's kind of wondering what they're going to be.
I'm fascinated by the Pelicans. You mentioned it. They're one of the most interesting cases in the league. They're like one of those test tube teams where you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. But I'm high on them. I think after that Anthony Davis deal and winning that lottery, yeah, that set them up as best as you possibly could have been set up, losing a superstar. And now you go out and you get Steven Adams and you swap Drew Holiday for Bledsoe and a pick, multiple picks, I should say. I think they're ready to go for it. And I mean, go for it in a sense of be a playoff team and really start to develop yourself as a contender. And if Zion stays healthy, I think that their floor is a playing game. I don't see this team missing the playoffs in any scenario if Zion Williamson is healthy, because like you mentioned, in limited minutes last year, he was pretty dominant. And I get it. It's a small sample size, but we saw it in college. We saw it in high school. Every step of the way, he's exceeded expectations, and people didn't think he can do it in the NBA. He showed me last year in, what was it, a 20-game sample size, that he can perform at the NBA level. And so if he can stay healthy and stay on the floor, the Pelicans are no doubt in my mind a playoff team.
You know, before you go, Riv, when talking about Zion, I think that he's more Blake Griffin impact as a number one overall pick than LeBron, you know, because I think Zion early in his career, he's going to have these flashes of dominance like Blake had when he was with the Clippers early on. But as his career goes, as we go further into his career, he's going to start to lose a lot of his shine that made him so dominant. Because I don't see Zion as a traditional forward in terms of handling the ball and getting to the rack and being a playmaker. I see more of a Blake Griffin, Barkley, pick and roll, post-ups, a guy like that.
You're muted, Riv.
Yeah, he's muted. He doesn't even know.
Yeah. I agree. And shout out to Blake Griffin. He was really great for a portion of his career before the injury started hitting him. The Pelicans have a good one. They have a really good one right here. They picked Zion Williamson. I think that Anthony Davis trade was the best thing that could have happened to him because it lined them up for them to get Zion Williamson. He can be a superstar. And I think injuries aside, gets his body right, he can be a superstar. Him and Moran, the two guys, they can be the superstars in this league at that draft. And he can be a superstar in this league. He can carry that franchise. The pieces around him, I feel like, have to be solid because he's not a guy who's going to go out, go get a bucket with his handles. No, he's more of, like you said, Charles Barkley, Blake Griffin as pick and roll. A guy who's going to cut. You got to get him. Sometimes you're going to get him in a post up with a mismatch. He's just going to spin off and dunk. So it's going to be interesting. And the pieces around him right now aren't shooters in terms of the guards. Bledsoe isn't a shooter. Lonzo Ball, I wouldn't really call a shooter. He can hit the shot, but I wouldn't really call him a shooter. JJ Redick is still there, but he's a guy a point guard has to set up in a sense. They're small forward. I'm not Blake Griffin. I mean, Brandon Ingram, he's great, but I want to see him. I want to see them win and he still be that great. And he did a lot of his damage when Zion wasn't playing. So it's going to be interesting to see Steven Adams. I want to see how that's going to fit in a sense. The logjam down there with Zion and Steven Adams on the same court. But all in all, this team is still impressive. I still believe in Nickel Alexander-Walker. I think he's going to be a really good player. Josh Hart is a really good player. Nicole Melli is a guy who could spot out. He could take the three ball. He's a good player too. So, and Kira Lewis Jr., who's an underrated draft pick, he's good too. He can play. So this team is really good. I have them shooting for a play-in spot, and I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people. And I think if Zion is healthy, throughout the year, they can maybe shoot for an 8th seed.
So who they added Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams, Hernan Gomez, Wenyen Gabriel. They lost Drew Holiday, Darius Miller, Jahlil Okafor, Derek Favors, and Etuan Moore. I mean, for me, when I look at this Pelicans team, I don't know why they kept Bledsoe. I think they should have kept George Hill instead. I think George Hill fits Zion better. He can shoot 44% from the three. And Bledsoe's more of a rhythm player. Like, he needs the ball in his hands. And it's kind of weird. Is he going to come off the bench? Is he going to start? I know right now ESPN is projecting their starting lineup to be Lonzo at the 1 and Bledsoe at the 2. I think that's going to be horrible. Like, I'd put my starting lineup for the Pelicans would be Lonzo, JJ, Ingram, Williamson.
JJ has to start.
Yeah, and Steven Adams. And off the bench, they got a great bench if they would have Bledsoe, Kira Lewis, Josh Hart, Jackson Hayes, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Nicolo Melli. Like, I like the Pelicans. The biggest question mark with them is, 1, is Zion going to stay healthy? And 2, how is Stan Van Gundy going to curate this offense? Is he going to do what he did in Detroit, which he wasn't that successful? Or is he going to do what he did in Orlando and kind of build this offense around Zion the same way he did around a prime Dwight? Is he going to try to play Zion as a prime Dwight? You know, there's a big difference because Zion's like 6'6", 6'7". Dwight is 6'11". So, and also Zion isn't a traditional center back to the basket, so they're two different play styles. It's going to be really interesting to see what Stan Van Gundy does with Zion.
Yeah, I like the core that they've put around Zion. I think although they're a weird fit, I do think they can fit together. And I think Lonzo is going to take another step in his game this year. You know, there's arguments if he's overrated, if he's underrated. I think he's still got more room to grow in his game. I like Josh Hart. Brandon Ingram obviously was, an all-star caliber talent last year. Steven Adams is one of the better big men in the league. I have them finishing 10 only because the West is so good ahead of them. If Zion doesn't stay healthy all season long, I could see them dropping out of that spot maybe to like a 12 or 11. But I could see them, if everything goes right and they stay healthy, getting up to maybe a 7 or 8.
Yeah, I agree. I think I wouldn't say, oh, no, I lied. I do not agree. You said 7? I don't know about 7. I can see on a lucky day them getting to 8 if Zion's healthy all year. I don't think they'll get to 7, though. I don't even know if they'll get 8. The West is just so loaded. I think they'll definitely be in the fight. From 5 to 10, they'll definitely be in the – no, I lied. From 8 to 10, they'll definitely be in the fight. But like I said, I don't know how this is going to fit with Zion and Steven Adams. And like you said, Joel, I agree exactly what you said. I don't know how Stan Van Gundy's going to – if he's going to go the Orlando route or if he's going to go the Detroit route. Now, with the Orlando route, like you said, Dwight was 6'11". He can jump out the roof also. So the height benefited him, and he was also really athletic. And I feel like his defensive IQ is much, much higher than Zion's in a sense. So it's going to be tough because in the West, he's going to play Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic. So he's going to play some bigs, Jusuf Nurkic. So he's going to play a lot of guys. So it's going to be interesting to see this team work and to see how the spacing is going to be and how the young guys are going to develop. But yeah, I got this team fighting for a play-in. I'll probably have them in between 8 and 11th. 8 if they're really, really lucky.
Yeah, I mean, and Dwight was also an elite defender. Zion has pigeon feet. He's not very good defensively.
He's an elite off-ball defender.
And it's not a knock on him. It's just he's not a very good defensive player. He can't move his feet that well laterally. I mean, what I think about it, I think it kind of sucks in how hyped up Zion has become, because what hyped him up is not his personality. Like, he doesn't have an eccentric personality. He's very humble, very to himself, very calm. He's very mellow. He's not like a LeVar Ball who hyped up LaMelo and Lonzo. Nobody did that for Zion. It was all his highlights and media. So there are these kind of unrealistic expectations on him. I think the Pelicans this year, they finished with the 12th seed in the West. I can see them finishing as high as 8 and as low as 13. But I think this team is going to be a really weird fit, and we have to bank on Zion's health.